It's so nice and sunny outside today. Absolutely love it. What I don't love is the bird poop on my car. That's an absolute no-no. I will definitely have to deal with this later. First up, in the studio, working on 2 songs, basically at the same time. Last time I worked on them, I ruined them, kind of. Luckily, I had like previous versions saved, so I can go back and give it another try. Very nice, successful session. I was able to eliminate quite a few mistakes within those 2 songs, and I thought, like, why not share these mistakes with you so you can avoid them, or maybe whenever you're getting closer to finishing a track, go through these kind of mistakes and check if any are left in your songs. The very first one are like clicks and pops, very annoying. For that, I always bounce out the song, listen with headphones, listen closely with speakers. If I hear a plop, a click, or anything like that, I go back, listen again, write down which kind of minute and second it is, and then go into the DAW and check why it's happening. The most common one, definitely, without a doubt, is the one whenever you cut audio. If you cut audio, all audio, sine waves, if you cut it right in the middle, there will be an artifact, like a click kind of sound. Getting rid of that is super simple, and there's even a method to prevent it altogether, at least in Logic. But I'm sure every DAW has it. Select the section that has the click in it. It could be the one before the cut or after. You could also select both, but let's start with one. And then in region, you have like fade in, fade out. We can now fade it out, and you'll see if you zoom in, there is a fade out. Fade in, of course, same thing. At the start, we could do it with the next kind of section, fade in. You can also type in here something really big, a big fade in, fade out. Simple, prevents these pops and clicks. Or you go at least right here to smart and snap edits to 0 crossing. So it will take, whenever you cut a sine wave in between, it will jump to the next one that is at 0. This prevents the click. The second thing I corrected, and I also hear on a ton of songs, is the loudness level between the break section and the drop sections. A lot of breaks towards the end, drum rolls, reverbs in, white noise in, effects in, they get really loud and really dense, which is good. But if then the drop afterwards is not louder or hits more, it just loses, and having a drop that loses is really, really bad. So you need to make sure it's quieter. You can go in on the master, just draw in some automation. I did it here in this case actually on a single track, because that was the one that was too loud. So it's fading the sound in. Then adding distortion right here, adding delay, adding reverb, adding white noise. It gets fairly loud, and towards the end where it's getting too loud, I'm actually reducing it from -26 decibels to -31, and it helps to make the drop hit harder again. Very simple trick. And very important, do this after you added some sort or form of master chain, maybe a compressor or limiter. Squish it a little, make it loud, because the compressing will emphasize this a lot more. Like, it will take the quiet parts, make them louder. So do it after you engage some sort of form of master chain, so you can kind of guess what it will sound like when a real mastering engineer takes care of it. A really good mastering engineer will even cut your song and give them different volumes just to make it sound really nice. But a lot just don't do this. Low cutting. Yes, low cutting is important. Everyone knows that. But even the low elements need to be low cutted. Even the bass, even the sub bass, even the kick. Go in there and low cut them. Listen how much it affects the sound. If it affects it too much, back off again. But I got a low cut on almost everything. Right here, bass line, low cut at 36 Hertz. It's not needed. It's just mud. Like, the speakers can't really output it. They're really busy. Like, the woofer of the speaker has to move a lot for the lower frequencies, a lot more. And for the very low ones that are at the border, at the crossing point where the speaker can't even handle it anymore, it just puts a lot of stress onto the speaker. It doesn't play the music then with distortion free. Just get rid of it. Even a big club system can't play it. Speaking of low cutting, you have sometimes to do the opposite. You sometimes have to add low frequencies, especially to the break section. For example, in this song right here, there is like an epic build-up, silence, and then like a main synthesizer. And I had to thicken it up because it plays really alone. I added a second layer that gives me low frequencies. Without it, it sounds kind of thin. That's not good. Like, always consider every section of your song as its own mix down, and then copy down the tracks, adjust them. So for example, here in this section where nothing else is playing, I have the synth underneath with a lot of bass. Then in the drop section, you can see I copied it down. It's in there as well, but it's EQ'd differently. It's like cut at 262 Hertz, just to make sure it doesn't interfere with the kick and bass. And then in the break section where it's alone, it needs that low end information again back in there. So the cut on there is actually just at 66 Hertz. Especially if you do more pop kind of music where the sections of the song are way different, you have to do this even more. Like every section is like an own little track. I hear way too many songs where elements go from the start to the end just through. No change, no automation, no volume, no movement, no adjusting to other parts entering it. If, for example, the vocal enters in maybe the next part, I would go in there, copy most of the synths down, and like EQ away a little kind of shape to have a pocket for the vocals. When you listen to the entire song, you don't hear that because it's like lowered while the vocal enters. But this gives it more room. It's like a puzzle. Every piece needs to fit into each other, depending on how many pieces of puzzle you have in that kind of section. And in this break kind of section, there is nothing, just this one synth. So it needs to be big and huge and layered and cover all of the frequencies. There's actually one more thing I almost forgot. That's something I did on this song. As I told you, I copied down sections for the breakdown and for the drop, to have like different sound on top of each other. I also do that because of the sidechaining. Like in the breakdown, especially if you use something like LFO tool, which just sidechains all the time without a trigger, I have like a second track copied down below without it. You don't want, or usually don't want to have that pumpy effect in the breakdown section. It really depends. Sometimes you can leave it in there to give it a rhythm and effect. For this song, I wanted to have like the attack of the main synthesizer sound not being affected. It just sounded very stupid. So I copied it down, deleted the LFO tool, and had it back right on there on the drop again in a second track. Anyways, I hope these tips help. If you have any suggestion, any tip for anyone else out there, just leave it down below in the comment section. I will now work a little more music, get that car washed. Not looking forward to it, but the bird poop has to disappear. Later today, dinner with the family. Tomorrow, back here in the studio, working on another song. The one that I didn't show you today. It's the second one with the vocals of Robin Vane. And I hope to get it released as well as the other songs on Lost Frequencies label. Save the Day, the one you'll hear in the outro, it's doing fairly good. If you're interested, check it out. I'll link it down below. See you tomorrow, back here in the studio.